Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Global Currency Watch. If you've been searching for calm, intelligent analysis in a space filled with hype, panic, fake countdowns, and emotional roller coasters, take 1 second to hit like and subscribe. Because right now, clarity matters more than ever. Tonight's video is important. Not because I'm here to give you a magical date, not because I'm about to tell you it happens tomorrow, and not because I want to feed you another fantasy headline. No, tonight we're going deeper than that. Because there's one phrase that has confused this entire community for years: deleting the zeros. And the truth is, most people still don't understand what it actually means. Some people hear it and panic instantly. Others completely dismiss it because they've heard the phrase too many times before. But what if I told you? The fear surrounding this phrase comes from one massive misunderstanding. A misunderstanding between what happens inside Iraq and what happens outside Iraq in the international market. And once you separate those two worlds mentally, everything starts making a lot more sense. Tonight, we're going to break all of it down step by step. No guru language, no fantasy math, no emotional manipulation, just real analysis. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why Iraq's financial transformation may be far bigger than most people realize. The big confusion. Let's start with the confusion itself, because confusion creates fear, and fear creates bad decisions. When people hear deleting the zeros, they imagine disaster. They imagine their investment shrinking overnight. They imagine waking up one morning and suddenly their currency becomes worthless. But that's not actually how redenomination works. Not historically, not economically, and not in Iraq's current situation. The problem is that most explanations online mix together two completely different systems. 1. Iraq's domestic currency restructuring. 2. International Forex valuation. Those are not the same thing. And if you don't separate them, nothing else makes sense. So tonight, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to separate the domestic side from the international side. Because once you understand the difference, the entire picture changes. Life inside Iraq. Right now inside Iraq, people still operate heavily with physical cash. Large physical cash, huge denomination notes. A normal Iraqi citizen may walk around carrying a 25,000 dinar note for everyday purchases. Now think about that carefully. At today's visible exchange rate online, that large note is worth only around $19. That means Iraq's economy has been operating with massive paper denominations for relatively small purchasing power. And that creates serious problems. Not just practical problems, systemic problems. Large cash economies are difficult to monitor. They're vulnerable to corruption, vulnerable to smuggling, vulnerable to black market activity. And perhaps most importantly, cash-heavy economies are extremely difficult to modernize internationally because global banking systems depend on transparency, digital tracking, electronic settlement systems, compliance structures, anti-money laundering controls. You cannot fully modernize a national economy while most transactions happen outside the banking system. And Iraq knows this. That's why the digitization process matters so much. The digitization process. Here's what Iraq has quietly been doing. When Iraqi citizens deposit physical dinar into banks, they are not exchanging them into dollars. They are converting paper cash into digital dinar balances. 1-to-1, a 25,000 paper note enters the bank, and a 25,000 digital dinar balance appears in the account. Same value, different form. That's digitization. And this process has reportedly been happening for quite some time now. Not rumor, not speculation. Institutional modernization. This is Iraq gradually pulling physical cash off the streets and moving economic activity into traceable digital banking infrastructure. And that's a massive deal, because countries preparing for international financial integration require modern digital banking systems. Without them, nothing else works. No serious international investment, no efficient settlement systems, no strong monetary controls, no modern banking integration. Infrastructure comes first, always. What deleting the zeros really means. Now we arrive at the phrase everyone fears. Deleting the zeros. Eventually, Iraq is expected to redenominate its domestic currency structure, meaning a 25,000 dinar note could become a 25 dinar note, 3 zeros removed, and immediately people panic. But here's what matters. Inside Iraq, purchasing power adjusts proportionally. If someone earns 1,000 dinar monthly today, after redenomination, that salary may become 1,000 dinar. But prices adjust too. Bread adjusts, fuel adjusts, rent adjusts. Everything scales down together. So the citizen's real purchasing power stays relatively consistent. This is not wealth destruction. It's monetary simplification. And many countries have done this before. Turkey, Brazil, Argentina, others. The purpose is psychological stabilization and operational efficiency. Smaller numbers, cleaner accounting, simpler transactions, stronger international perception. That's the domestic side. But here's where things become extremely important for you. Domestic versus international. What happens domestically inside Iraq is not identical to what happens internationally. And this distinction is the entire game. Because if you hold Iraqi dinar outside Iraq, you are participating in the international side of the equation, not the grocery store pricing structure inside Baghdad. The international value of a currency depends on entirely different factors. Oil reserves, foreign reserves, trade relationships, banking compliance, political stability, international confidence, geopolitical positioning. Those are the factors international markets care about, not cosmetic accounting adjustments on domestic paper notes. And this is the misunderstanding that creates so much fear online. People confuse domestic redenomination with international valuation. But they are separate mechanisms, separate purposes, separate systems. And once you mentally separate those two tracks, a lot of confusion disappears. Gold signals. Now let's talk about what's happening inside Iraq right now, because recent developments matter. One of the biggest quiet signals this week involved gold pricing. Gold inside Iraq is increasingly being priced directly in Iraqi dinar, not dollars. That may sound small, but psychologically and financially, it's significant. Gold is one of the most trusted stores of value on Earth. Historically, in unstable economies, people trust foreign currencies more than their own, especially the US dollar. But when a country begins pricing gold directly in its own currency consistently, that signals growing domestic confidence, stabilization, normalization, institutional maturity. These are the kinds of signals that matter structurally, not emotionally, structurally. Dollar weakening. At the same time, reports suggest the US dollar has weakened slightly against the dinar inside Iraqi markets. Again, small movement, but direction matters. The Iraqi central bank has been aggressively tightening monetary controls, cracking down on black market dollar activity, enforcing anti-money laundering standards, reducing unofficial cash leakage, strengthening official banking channels. All of that matters, because before a country can integrate financially at a higher international level, it must first gain control of its internal monetary system. That process is happening right now, quietly, methodically, systematically. Political reform. Now let's address politics, because politics absolutely matters in financial reform. Iraq's current political trajectory appears increasingly aligned with banking modernization and economic restructuring. And that matters enormously. Because financial reform requires political cover, you need leadership that understands banking systems, international compliance, digital finance, trade integration, monetary stabilization. This is no longer random movement. This is coordinated institutional alignment. And while political instability still exists, the broader reform direction appears increasingly clear. The emotional side. Now let me talk directly to you for a minute, because I know many people watching this are tired. Some of you have followed this investment for years, some over a decade, and after enough time, hope becomes emotionally complicated. You want to stay optimistic, but you're exhausted by false promises, exhausted by fake dates, exhausted by dramatic headlines that lead nowhere. I understand that, but here's what matters. The institutional work happening now cannot easily be faked. Digital banking systems, AML compliance, cross-border banking integration, international settlement preparation. These are real structural developments. They require systems, audits, testing, oversight, coordination with global financial bodies. This is groundwork, and groundwork matters. Wealth preparation. And now I want to say something important. If you truly believe this investment could someday become financially significant, then preparation matters, because sudden wealth destroys unprepared people constantly. Lottery winners go broke, athletes lose fortunes, inheritance collapses happen every day. Not because people are unintelligent, but because emotional decisions scale faster than financial maturity. That's why preparation matters more than speculation. Learn about taxes, asset protection, estate planning, investment discipline, because the exchange itself is not the finish line. It's the starting line of a completely different challenge. Keeping wealth, protecting wealth, growing wealth responsibly. That's the real game. So let's bring this all together. Deleting the zeros is primarily a domestic monetary restructuring process. It is not identical to international Forex valuation. Those are separate systems, separate mechanisms, separate purposes. Iraq's banking digitization is real. Gold denominated in dinar matters. Monetary tightening matters. Political alignment toward financial reform matters. These are institutional signals, not emotional hype cycles. And perhaps most importantly, the patience you've exercised over the years is not passive weakness. Patience inside a structural long-horizon investment is discipline, especially when institutional groundwork takes years to build. Stay informed. Stay emotionally grounded. Focus on infrastructure, not hype. And most importantly, stay prepared, because preparation beats speculation every single time. This is Global Currency Watch. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.